Let's turn to the fourth duty. The fourth duty is working at home. We learned last week that the primary ministry of the woman should be in the home. Again, this does not mean she is to stay at home 24/7. It means 24 hours for every day of the week, Monday to Sunday. No, that's not what it means. The excellent wife of Proverbs 31 is a hard worker and a good businesswoman. But do not miss the fact that she does all her work primarily for the welfare of her family. Family-centered pa rin siya. Turn your Bibles to Proverbs 31. I failed to just emphasize this. I want you to see the portions in Proverbs 31 that talks about household, home. Just to prove to you that although this woman, this excellent woman, is a businesswoman, look at how her mind thinks. It's still focused on the home. Proverbs 31, verses 11 and 12. Proverbs 31, 11 and 12. It says, "The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life." So you see, all the days of the life of the woman, she shows she does good for her husband. All the days. Look at verse 15. Verse 15. "She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household." Verse 21. "She is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household are clothed in scarlet." When it says clothed in scarlet, that means they're wearing expensive clothing, expensive garments. Because she's a successful businesswoman, she makes money, she's able to provide and to support her husband as well, and provide for these things, for her family. Look at verse 27 and 28. It says, "She looks well to the ways of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her." You know, if you say, "Well, I'm a businesswoman," but the question is, are you still able to care for your home? If you're neglecting your home, here is an evidence. You may be a successful businesswoman, but the question is, does your husband or do your children praise you? Look at what this verse says again, Proverbs 31, verse 27. "She looks well to the ways of her household." And then verse 28, "Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her." You know if you've been neglecting the home because your children no longer praise you. Your children say, "When I get married, I will not follow the footsteps of my mother. She doesn't have time for us. Yes, we have all of these amenities at home. We have a nice home. We have computer. We have this. We have that. We have nice gadgets. We have a cell phone. But that's not what I want." Maybe the children are saying, "I need a mother. Where is she when I need her most? I don't feel this tender, loving care of a mother." The husband doesn't feel that his wife cares for him. He's tempted. He's tempted in the office. Her secretary is a temptation, a very strong temptation to him, because when she goes home, the wife isn't there. The wife has even more time with her business partner or doing some work outside of her home, so he doesn't praise her. So this is a good test. You ask yourself, do you really feel you have time in the home? Yes, you might say, "Well, I'm the Proverbs 31 woman." Can your husband and your children praise you? Are they glad that you are the husband's wife or you are the children's mother? Do they praise you because of your affection, your love, your concern for the family? Now, supplementing the family income may be a possible option, as we find here in Proverbs 31. But, wives, please make sure that this is something that you and your husband have agreed on. And make sure that if you decide to do some work outside of the home, please make sure that you have a clear conscience. Make sure that you do not neglect the biblical principles that we're looking at here in Titus chapter 2. Make sure that your heart is still really in the home. A wife who is busy at home should also not look down on herself and say that she is, quotes, just a plain housewife. As we've learned last time, a housewife is already in top management. But to balance all of the responsibilities of children, of husband, of chores in the home and other things, it will require wisdom. It will require knowledge. It will require skill. So women who are staying at home and doing all of these things, she is already in top management. She should also not see herself as a house help or maid. And perhaps disregard her looks because maybe she's saying, well, I'm doing the laundering, ironing, cooking, cleaning, marketing all the day, so I don't have time for myself. And maybe it's not important that I do take care of myself. Women, don't say that. A young wife can do all of these things and still have a confident and dignified perspective regarding herself. You know, I just thought about this, but maybe this is a parallel. Look at a flight stewardess. Look at the flight stewardess. Observe what she does. She's doing the work of a waitress. But have you ever ridden a plane and then heard someone call, waiter, waitress, pengi nga ng tubig? No, you don't call her waitress. You call her stewardess. Right? She wears her apron, pulls that food cart, and still maintains a bright disposition. She still wears her uniform in a beautiful manner. She maintains a beautiful face, a beautiful body. What I'm saying is, she doesn't see herself as an ordinary waitress. She's still dignified. So, I see women that way. You may be busy in the home, but don't forget, it's still possible for you to be pretty or at least to carry yourself with such confidence that people will respect you. I remember when I was in Cebu, I forgot to share this during the first service, so you're a privileged group because I remember this only now. I remember when I was in Cebu, I was a young pastor, and the mother of the household, I think she's a mother of 7. And she's in the home always, very supportive of her husband. But the way she carried herself, she didn't wear yung duster, as in mukhang lola. No. She's in her, I remember at that time, she's already in her early 50s. But the way she carried herself, she's like a president. She's like Imelda Marcos as she carried herself with makeup, and she stood straight, she sat straight. Yet you notice that she respected and loved her husband and served her children. She was always at home. She was busy in the affairs of the house. Of course, they had maid, but that didn't mean that her hands were not full. Busy, masyado pa rin siyang busy sa tahanan. Pero pag nakita niyo, pagdadala niya ng kanyang sarili, sabi mo, grabe itong babaeng ito. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so don't see yourself simply as a maid or a waitress. Now, 1 Timothy chapter 5 contains a list of qualifications that provides a picture of a godly older woman that younger women can aspire to. You know, ang ganda nitong nakalagay. What does it say? 1 Timothy 5, 9 and 10 says, let a widow be enrolled if she is not less than 60 years of age, having been the wife of one husband and having a reputation of good works. And then notice What good works are being mentioned here? If she has brought up children, has shown hospitality, has washed the feet of the saints, has cared for the afflicted, and has devoted herself to every good work. You know, I failed to read what comes next. Because in verses 13 and 14, this shows us that the good works that the older widows did concentrated in the home. In the home. You know, when you just read verse 9 and 10, you may not think that this is referring to the home primarily. Yes, you have being the husband of, the wife of one husband having, or you have bringing up children, you have showing hospitality. You might say, well, that happens in the home. What about the others? But you see, when you read further in verses 13 and 14, you discover that in the mind of Paul, here is a good woman. Here is an excellent woman. Here is a woman who is full of good works. Here is an old woman who should be supported in the church. One who has had her ministry focused in the home. I can prove that by reading verses 13 and 14. Read what it says here. Besides that, they learn to be idlers, going about from house to house, and not only idlers, but also gossips and busybodies, saying what they should not. What he's saying is, younger women, you might as well marry. Or because younger widows who make this promise and then they turn back on their promise and they leave the home and they visit one house to another, well, they're falling into sin. And then he adds in verse 14, so I would have younger widows marry, bear children, manage their households, and give the adversary no occasion for slander. You notice it's still focused on the home. From a biblical point of view, that's the godly woman. A woman who not only fears the Lord, but who expresses her service to the Lord and love for the Lord and for His brethren primarily through accomplishing her responsibilities in the home. Now, it doesn't mean that she doesn't have time anymore for the church. She does serve in the church as well. She has discovered her gifts and she uses her gifts for the building up of the body of Christ, but never to the neglect of her home. Now look at duty number 6. Duty number 6, she is to be kind. To be kind means to be gentle, tender-hearted, merciful, thoughtful. It means to be a nice person. It means to be a nice person to be around. And this is a wonderful virtue which Paul adds immediately to women being workers at home. As I mentioned before, sometimes if women are so engrossed in working at home, they can be bad-tempered, they can be complaining, irritable, grouchy, grumpy. But this is a reminder for them, yes, to be busy at home, but to be kind. Now, this also reminds us that a kind woman is one who thinks of the needs of others and goes out of her way to meet those needs. So she's not just thinking of her family, she's also hospitable. She tries to meet the needs of others. So that's a kind person. Now, before moving to the next duty of the wife, which is to be submissive to their husbands, let me read to you the following excerpt from the book of Martha Peace entitled Becoming a Titus II Woman. This is the book I mentioned a while ago. And in this particular book, she quotes extensively from her previous book, The Excellent Wife. And this is what she writes to explain worker at home. Let me read to you. This is what she says. The biblical concept of a worker at home is not a popular one today, but I do believe that God intended for the women, especially the younger women, to stay home and do a good job of caring for their homes and for their families. A wife who is gone with too many activities or who does not have the time or energy to keep her home as it should be kept. If a wife is working or is thinking of returning to work, she should examine her motives. What is it that she really wants? Ano ba talaga gusto niya? Bakit siya nagtatrabaho sa labas? What is her heart set on? Is it to avoid becoming a non-person?